everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the absolute cornerstones of the Java world, the Spring Framework. We're going to take a tour of its different modules and really see what makes this thing tick.
So you gotta ask, right? How did Spring just completely change the game for Java developers? What was going on before it came along that made things so tough?
And the answer is actually pretty brilliant. Spring looked at what was often a really tangled, complicated mess of code and broke it all down into these clean, manageable, and reusable building blocks.
Yeah, before Spring, building a big enterprise Java application could feel like you were trying to solve a massive, frustrating puzzle. You had all these different parts of your application that were so tightly connected or coupled that changing one thing could break 10 other things. It was a real headache to test and maintain.
And that's its mission in a nutshell. Spring was literally born to fight that complexity. The number one goal was to make building powerful, easy-to-test applications not just a little easier, but a whole lot more straightforward for everyone. So how did it actually do that? How did it achieve this amazing simplification? Well, the secret sauce is its modular architecture. You see, Spring isn't one giant do-everything-at-once framework. Nope, it's more like a collection of specialized tools. And here are some of those original core modules. Now, I know it looks like a long list, but just think of it like a perfectly organized toolbox. The core container, that's the foundation. Everything else sits on top of it. Need to build a website? You grab the web and MVC modules. Got to talk to a database? You pull out the JDBC or ORM mapping modules. The big idea is you only use the tools you actually need for the job. It keeps your projects lean and mean. But here's the thing. All of these modules, this entire toolbox, it's all built on one single revolutionary idea that honestly changed everything. And that idea is called inversion of control, or IOC. It completely flips the script on how we build apps. Normally, your code is the boss. It's in charge of creating all the objects it needs to work. With IOC, the framework takes over. It's like having an assistant. You just declare, hey, I need one of these, and Spring goes, got it, and creates it and wires it all up for you. And the difference this makes is huge. The old way meant your code was all hardwired together, making any change a potential disaster. The Spring way, using IOC, creates this loosely coupled system where components don't have to be so tightly bound. That makes your application way more flexible, so much easier to test, and a whole lot simpler to manage as it gets bigger. Okay, so this whole inversion of control idea sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in the real world? Well, let's take a look at one of Spring's most famous modules, Spring MVC, which is all about building web applications. At the absolute heart of Spring MVC is this thing called the dispatcher servlet. The best way to think about it is like the front desk or the main switchboard operator for your entire web application. Every single request that comes in from a user's browser, it goes through here first, no exceptions. And the process is just so clean and organized. A request comes in, the dispatcher servlet says, okay, who handles this? It finds the right piece of your code, which is called a controller. That controller does its job, figures out what the user should see next, and then hands it back. It's this beautiful, predictable pattern. And sticking with that modular philosophy, Spring gives you specialized tools for this too. If you're building a classic website that shows HTML pages to the user, you'll use an @ controller. But if you're building a modern API that just sends back raw data, like JSON for a mobile app, you just switch to an @REST controller. See? It's all about having the perfect tool for the specific job you're doing. So, what about all that other stuff? You know, things like logging or security checks. These are things you need pretty much everywhere in your application, not just in one single place. Well, Spring has a really clever module for that. It's called Aspect-Oriented Programming, or AOP. It's just a fancy way of saying you can take all those functionalities that cut across your entire application and handle them in one central, neat, and tidy place. I mean, think about it. Things like logging every time a certain function gets called, or checking a user's security permissions before they can access something, or managing database transactions. You don't want to copy and paste that logic into every single class, right? That would be a nightmare. AOP lets you define that logic once and just tell Spring where to apply it. Super clean. Of course, software development never stands still. And you know what? Neither does Spring. That original framework has grown into the foundation for a whole ecosystem of modern, powerful tools.
And this timeline just shows that evolution perfectly. It all started with the core framework. Then came Spring Boot, which totally changed how fast you could get a project up and running. Spring Data made working with databases a breeze, and Spring Cloud gave us the tools for this new world of microservices. Each one of these is just another layer, another set of specialized tools built on that same core modular idea.
Oh man, Spring Boot is such a game changer. What it does is it looks at your project, sees what you're trying to do, and automatically configures a ton of stuff for you. It gives you these opinionated defaults, basically smart starting points, that just work for most apps. This cuts down the amount of manual setup you have to do to almost zero.
And as applications got more and more spread out and complex, Spring Cloud showed up. It gives you all the essential tools and patterns you need to build and manage these modern, distributed microservice systems. It's a lifesaver.
So, yeah, when you zoom out and look at the whole Spring ecosystem today, it can seem vast, intimidating even. But the key thing to remember is that it's not a chaotic mess. It's a highly organized, totally modular toolbox, where every single project and every module has been carefully designed to solve a very specific problem. So once you start to understand these different building blocks and how they fit together, you're not just using a framework anymore. You're wielding this incredibly powerful set of tools. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build with it?